All right. Okay, I think we're ready to begin here. Doors are closed. The mic seems to be on. Can everybody hear me? There we go. Yeah, that feels good. So I'm Jake Silverstein. I'm the editor-in-chief of Texas Monthly, and I'm going to be your moderator here today for what I think will be a very interesting and an interesting and memorable afternoon with Kevin Powers, who's the gentleman here to my left. Kevin, I'm going to give you a brief introduction to Kevin, but quite a little bit before I do that, let me just make a couple of brief announcements. One is to please remember to turn off your cell phones. Yes, there you go. I see some people doing that. Two is that I'll have some time for questions and answers, questions from the audience and answers from Kevin at the end of our time here. Kevin's going to read a little bit. We're in addition to questions from me and from you. This is a wonderful, wonderful book of poems that Kevin has, and we wanted to make sure that you guys got a chance to hear that. And then the last thing is that there will be books for sale afterward, and that's going to happen upstairs, and you should buy 2 or 3 copies apiece. All right, so as I said, I'm Jake. I'm the editor-in-chief of Texas Monthly, and Kevin is here to my left. Kevin, first of all, it's important for you all to know that we as Texans can kind of claim Kevin as our own because although he is a native of Richmond, Virginia, Kevin is a graduate of the Michener Center for Writers up at UT. And it was at UT that he wrote, I believe, some of the poems in this collection.
Many of
the poems in this collection, as well as much of his first novel, The Yellow Birds, which I'm sure most of you have heard of because it's one of the best books and most well-known, frankly, books of the last couple of years, which is much deserved. The book came out in 2012. It won the Penn-Hemingway Award. It was a finalist for the National Book Award, and it won the Guardian First Book Award. It really has gotten a lot of much-deserved attention. The Guardian, which gave it the First Book Award, as I mentioned, also wrote, "While few will have expected the war in Iraq to bring forth a novel that can stand beside All Quiet on the Western Front or The Red Badge of Courage, The Yellow Birds does just that for our time as those books did for theirs." Praise that is in no way overdone for what was truly and what is truly a magnificent novel. As I said, Kevin was born and raised in Richmond, Virginia. He graduated from Virginia Commonwealth University and got his MFA right up I-35 there at UT. Mm-hmm. He served in the U.S. Army as a machine gunner in Iraq in 2004 and 2005, an experience that his first novel, Yellow Birds, draws upon, as well as this collection that we're going to hear from today, Letter Composed During a Lull in the Fighting. It's a collection of poems that is out, I believe this is actually the first official event of this book. So I'm seeing some nods. Yes, okay, so this is an important moment, everybody. This is the launch of what is, I think, going to be one of the great collections of poetry that take stock of the experience of these wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, but also of war in general. So it is my great pleasure to be sitting here with Kevin Powers, and please let's give him a hand.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
So as I said, we're gonna hear some poems in a minute, but I thought maybe we could set them up, Kevin, by just a couple of questions. You know, your last year and a half has been, I know, kind of a whirlwind for you because The Yellow Birds has gotten so much attention, and you have a lot of people felt that it kind of answered, it met a need, right? A need that people had to try and understand what's going on over there. What is it like for our young men and women who are serving overseas in these wars? And the book, I think, spoke to that in a lot of ways. The book is so immediate. I'm speaking now of The Yellow Bird, so immediate and is so transporting. I guess I wanted to start by asking you, both books obviously are in some ways trying to accomplish the same thing, which is to render the experience of war, to render the experience of combat for many readers who have never experienced it before. That seems to me to be almost an impossible task.
Well, I think that's true. One of the reasons I've always turned to imaginative literature as both a reader and a writer is because it seems to be one of the few forms of human endeavor that are equipped to reckon with that impossibility. We talk about even trying to develop a vocabulary to talk about these kinds of issues is very difficult, very challenging, and and for me, the imagination is an essential component of that. I mean, it's a requirement for me to even begin to kind of conceive of how to talk about it, how to address it, how to find some area of common understanding. And I seem to be inclined to kind of focus on the emotional aspects of that experience, and really any experience, as an attempt to open a door so that other people can gain access to it.
Can you just to sort of give a basis to this conversation for those in the audience who don't know, who haven't read anything about you? Can you just briefly explain what your military service was?
Yeah, sure. So I was a enlisted soldier in the Army. I served northern Iraq for 2004 and 2005. I was a machine gunner in a combat engineer unit. Sorry. Oh, is that better? Okay, great. And primarily our job was driving the highways and byways and looking for roadside bombs, among other things. But that's how I spent a great deal of my time over there.
And the book, The Yellowbirds, obviously comes out of that experience. I wonder, now you have another book which comes out of that experience, but obviously a very different book in that it's a completely different form. You've turned to poetry now.
Right.
Was there something that you felt, obviously you're trying to render your experience in both books. Was there something that you felt you could now do with poetry that you hadn't done with the novel, that's sort of drove you to do to the second book?
Well, in a way, yes. I think, because I was working on many of the poems in the novel at the same time, it was really almost a practical, hoping that if I used all the forms available to me, then perhaps I could get close to approximating the experience. And so, because, as I said, I've always turned as a reader to both poetry and fiction, particularly the novel, I wanted to make sure that I kind of wasn't leaving any stone unturned in terms of what I could, how I could use my writing to explore those issues.
Let's take a moment now to hear some poems. I'm not exactly sure which ones you're going to read, but maybe you can just take it away for a little bit. We'll hear some poems, and then we'll return to some discussion about them.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not exactly sure which ones I'm going to read either, so that's good. I thought I'm feeling a little I don't know, buoyed by the experience of being back in Texas, and I actually started a poem today. I was walking on the river walk, and I've been reading some Lorca, that great the Somnambulist ballad, "Green, I Want You Green." And so, if you'll indulge me, I may just I'll probably hate it.
I think we'll definitely indulge
forever
you.
and ever. And I actually wrote it on the notes thing on my phone, so we'll see how this goes. I may go in a hole and never come out.
I think this is a Texas Book Festival first.
Yeah. Okay. So I may have to scroll, and I'm going to turn my phone off after this, I promise. So I guess it's, I don't know, San Antonio poem? How's that for a title? Yeah, there you go. You who make so much of the world, what can you say of this? A green gate that opens on a stone staircase, a stone landing where a limber runner waits to run, a river still as a piece of seized machinery. I can say nothing but what I've said. My tongue is as still as a doused flame. You who make so much of the world, tell me what to make of this, and I will. So that's that, and I'm turning my phone off. Thank you. So that's that, and then there's this. So I'm going to read I hope a kind of, a representative selection of the book, give you an idea. But I think I'll start with the title poem, which is called Letter Composed During a Lull